New developments in the sexual misconduct allegations against former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The Westchester County District Attorney's Office announcing that they've concluded their investigation and he won't be charged, although credible evidence was found. The District Attorney's Office saying this, quote, "In both instances, my office has determined that although the allegations and witnesses were credible and the conduct concerning, we cannot pursue criminal charges due to the statutory requirements of the criminal laws of New York." The DA concluded by talking about the brave women and witnesses, saying they remain, quote, "committed to supporting them and all survivors." Here to help us break it all down is criminal defense attorney and anchor at Long Crime Network, Bob Bianchi. Welcome to the program, Bob. So when it comes to this case, were you surprised that he was not charged?
No, not at all. I don't think there's a, I'm a legal analyst, not a political analyst. So, all of us credible legal analysts knew, and being a former head county prosecutor that made these decisions that the DA made here, this is not a crime. Crimes are broken down into offenses when they're sexual in nature that involve touching of the intimate parts. These two allegations that were reviewed by Mimi Roca dealt with kissing incidents. These would no way, shape, or form would ever make it to a criminal court trial or a criminal court charge. It could be a lesser thing like a harassment, but I believe that the statement that she put out there is 100% correct. And it's just a little disconcerting because everybody wants, in my opinion, a lot of times to say, oh, this person should go to jail or not go to jail based on their political perspective as opposed to a legal perspective. So I think we need to be careful. The laws were not violated by my estimation, according to the facts of this particular case, by giving somebody an unwanted kiss.
Yeah, so this case was specifically two of the allegations, and the DA outlined them. And like you mentioned, both of these women mentioned that it was a kiss on the cheek. But there were multiple allegations across the board. And are there any accusations that you have seen against him that you feel it could hold up in court?
Yeah, and I think what the DA was saying here is that they found that the allegations were credible. It just didn't amount to a criminal violation. But the instances in which he's being accused of groping, that's a different story. And I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with that, because those are allegations that are made where it is touching the intimate parts. And that would be something that could rise to a criminal offense in that instance. But of course, that's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with an unwanted kiss as opposed to something where the intimate parts of an individual are touched, which clearly would implicate criminal violations.
Well, speaking as the legal expert here, do you think that he's getting away with this more so because of his power and his esteem, or do you think this is truly just because it did not stand up to criminal charges?
Well, there was no question about the fact that legal analysts, both liberal and conservative, understood that kissing on the cheek is not going to amount to a criminal charge. We have to be careful in our country right now. We're politicizing the judicial system, and I don't think anybody would want to be living by the rule that if you kiss somebody on the cheek and that person doesn't want it, that you could be charged with a crime and put in prison. You have to use the rule of reason when you're dealing with this. So to answer your question directly, having been a person that has had to make these decisions, my experience has been that when you have a high publicly profiled individual and it is out in the court of public opinion, actually people in those circumstances tend to get treated worse in the criminal justice system than individuals who are just your ordinary, folks that are, that you see. So sometimes it's harder to get the high profile person to a district attorney to investigate. But once you do, they're usually pretty careful. No, I don't think he's getting a break. I think that the DA is actually following the law here.
Well, speaking of the Cuomos, we've been keeping a close eye over at CNN as well, where disgraced CNN producer John Griffin has been charged with sex crimes for minors. And now one of the little girl's moms is speaking out, saying that she's really upset how long it took for him to get arrested. And I feel like from an outsider's point of view, I see a lot of cases like this where they're handed the evidence and then it takes a while to get the arrest. Does this surprise you how long it took?
Again, I want to be careful with this because having investigated cases and understanding that the public wants answers sooner than we can dot I's and cross T's. Yeah, there is something that is odd to me that it took 15 months to take a case of this nature and this magnitude and seriousness. But I caveat that with the idea that apparently he was involved with multiple individuals. There's a lot of computer evidence here, and there can be, and may be right now, a much larger investigation that's going on here with respect to other individuals with these websites that were being used to traffic young people. So if that is the case, I could understand how it would take 15 months because they don't want to tip off, quote unquote, the bad guy while they're investigating a case of this nature. However, that said, if there is not a larger investigation, a 15-month long situation like this with somebody that is endangering young girls in the manner in which is being alleged here, which is really grotesque and gruesome, are what prosecutors live for, to prosecute these kind of individuals. You wake up every day happy that you have that job to do it. So if it's just this defendant and this allegation, I cannot explain why it would take 15 months to bring this forward. It makes no sense to me as a former prosecutor or a criminal defense attorney who's handled cases in federal court with sex crimes violations. You're usually very aggressive, very quick, and very draconian with regard to their plea offers.
Well, now that he has been arrested, what's your prediction? How do you think that this will all end up playing out?
My prediction, to quote Mr. T, is pain. Okay, these allegations are real serious. There are multiple charges that are involved here. I've seen people that have been charged with far less that are serving significant decades-long sentencing, and this is pretty prolific, and the evidence seems to be pretty overwhelming here. So you can expect, when you're dealing with pornography charges, you're talking with sex trafficking, interstate use of interstate facilities, as they call them, computers, phones, things of that nature. All this ratchets up the federal guideline sentencing. So he's looking at many decades in prison for this. And like I said, once prosecutors charge somebody like this, even though it may have taken a long time, it's going to be like teeth in a bone. They're not going to let this guy go, and it seems like the evidence is pretty significant. So I think he's in serious, serious jeopardy.
Wow. Well, we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on it. Thank you so much for your insight, Bob.
Of course.